Guys, welcome back. This is Eric here of Guitarsenal, and today we're going to be taking a little bit of an adventure on some more advanced bending techniques. If you saw one of the previous videos we made on bending and vibrato, and we went over some fairly challenging concepts in that video, we're going to go a little bit further down the rabbit hole with some more bending techniques, and we're going to really discuss multi-string bends. I think is sort of the next step when you get more into bending and you start to have kind of a bit of a cognitive sense of where other strings are and what other strings are doing and what intervals you're creating in those bends. You can really get some cool sounding stuff. Hopefully I didn't butcher those bends too bad in the intro. This is a 1960 Dan Electro DC2, so we're getting our old school on today. I figured this would be a fun guitar to use because this one's actually a challenging guitar to bend on, so it's a good one to demonstrate. You can do major bends and minor bends, and we even had some diminished bends there in the intro. So we're going to go over a couple of weird chord shapes that you can kind of bend and sway into. And we'll go over some almost pedal steel licks in a sense. And we'll go over, this mainly as it involves blues playing, but these bends can be integrated into a wide variety of different musical styles. So a lot of it just really comes down to being, having sort of a, in your brain, having a bit of a mental picture of where the chords are at on the neck and what type of tonality you're trying to create in a chord, whether it's major or whether it's minor. All right, we'll take this bend. This is a really popular bend, all right? We're going to bend this A right here up a full step to a B, but we're going to use our pinky to hold down the two top end notes in a G major chord. Okay, so if you imagine listening like Rolling Stones or something, you hear that, you know, that G ringing out, and you listen to the, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. All he's doing is bending that A up to the B and creating a G major chord. All right, now listen. Notice I'm using my two fingers here to help support that note, especially up there near the nut. There's a lot of tension right there. It's a very difficult bend to make, but that's a great bending technique. And if you're feeling really adventurous, you can push that note up and add some vibrato on that major third, and that's challenging to do. It's not easy. Don't get frustrated if you can't do it. Just concentrate on trying to push that A note up to B, if you're in G there, to get that major third. Concentrate on holding it in pitch right there. It's not easy. After you've gotten good at that, then you can put a little vibrato on that note. It's not easy, all right? It takes practice. So you're creating an interval with a bend, all right? You're creating a chord. You're bending into a chord to give it that pedal steel kind of sound. What if the song was in G minor? Well, gosh, that's even easier. You only have to bend a half step because you're only bending up. You're creating a G minor chord, which would be a flatted third. All right, there's a major. Minor would be a step down. Now you're in G minor. Has anybody ever thought about sliding that note and making a G minor bend? Maybe you haven't. It sounds like this. Oh yeah. See, now you're making the guitar kind of talk a bit. You're speaking a language, right? If we're in G minor, We take that B flat chord. Right, that B flat chord has tonality. It is the major chord that is the relative major chord to that G minor. All we're doing is changing the root note, G minor. All right, walk that up to B flat, and we've got a B flat major. You could almost consider it a G minor inversion. That's the way you could think about it. You could just think about it as an inversion. Don't rack your brain over it. But just know that that major B flat is there. So another bend you can do in G minor is the same exact type of bend. Well, wait a minute. This is going to be a major third interval, but we're in G minor. Listen to this. Right? You get into bossa nova or whatever style of music you're playing, as long as it's in G minor. It can be, you know, it can be I Shot the Sheriff. So a major interval with that type of a bend doesn't always have to be a major key, right? So it just depends on where you apply it. So in that case, I'm bending into the major chord that is the relative major to that G minor chord. It's the same thing in E minor, right? If I was taking that, if the song was in E minor, you take Pink Floyd or whatever and you're hearing Wish You Were Here, well, that song's kind of in E minor if you think about it. A lot of the licks that are played and the tonality of the song, it is G major, but it's also E minor. It's just that relative sort of thing that's going on. So it'd be totally normal if a guy was playing a song in E minor for me to grab that same G major interval. Whatever, okay? So that's one example. That's a bending technique that can involve multiple strings, and it's a little bit more approachable for somebody that's just getting into those types of bends. So always be cognitive, have a cognitive dissonance in your mind there going on, or harmony, however you want to look at it, as to what you're bending into and what's near it, okay? What if we take, let's stay in G, right? What if we take G and we go off of let's do a dominant 7th chord with a sharp 9. It's going to sound like this. For those of you that are paying attention, that's also the Hendrix chord. Okay? There's some cool stuff you can do there. You can bend on this B string right into it. It's got a real spanky sound. Listen to this. That's a great sound. So if you hear that dominant 7th chord with the sharp 9, and by the way, a standard 9 chord would sound like this. Raising that 9th. So see that interval we're creating there. You start thinking about the shapes of chords and the way that chords are laid out, you're bending into those intervals. You're creating musical tension by the use of those bends. That's another pedal steel bend. Say that you're in G, but this time instead of working in a 7 dominant chord with a raised ninth, what if you're dealing with a 13 chord like this? Beautiful. If I play this high 13th shape, right, it's got that sort of jazzy sound. What if I want to spank it up a little bit and add some kind of country flair into that type of a chord movement, a 13th chord? I can take this G right here and I can hold it. So there's a lot of bends you can do. That's a difficult bend because it's right there near the nut. A lot of these bends, you know, near the nut have a lot of tension and they're hard to do. So don't get frustrated if you can't do it right out the gate. So speaking of frustrations, we'll go to another difficult bend. This is definitely an advanced bend. It took me probably about 15 years to figure this out. And it's only going to take y'all 15 minutes watching this video. So you're welcome. But that's using bending some 3 and 4 note chords. All right, so let's say we're still in that G 7 13, and we're still in blues mode, and you want to do some really kind of jazzy, let's just call it almost T-Bone Walker style chordal bends is what we'll call them. I don't know if that's a technical name for it. Double stops, whatever you want to call it. All right. You take those, that diminished chord right there. You hear a lot of blues players that, let's say you go over to the 4 chord in G, and which would be a C. Now whether you'd make that C a 7th chord like this, or let's say we add, you know, for aesthetics, we do the old-fashioned A7 shape that would sound like this. As a 4 chord if you're in C, right? You're in G and the 4 chord would be C, and that 7th chord would ring out like this. You hear that a lot. Okay, well you hear guitarists that'll take those 2 notes. All they're doing is bending that A7 shape with that note right there. Okay, and they're, especially in E, you can really hear it. I'm going to switch to the key of E. Listen to this. You really hear that, right? You can either bend that note up, like we already showed you. Bending this note. Or you can bend that G up about a half step. Same type of thing. So let's go back to G. Now, what's also a part of that shape? What if we go... Well, what do we got there? We got that diminished chord. So we've still got the top end of that A7 that we were bending. Why not sway those these two bottom notes in there too? See, it gets a little bit more of a kind of swaggery sort of sound. You're adding some other notes in there. It's got some, you know, unique harmonic content to that type of a movement. So, you know, instead of taking a pentatonic where some guy might go, that's cool. Taking that to the next step would be adding that extra note. And then taking it on to homework mode would be. All right, so that's, you know, an advanced bend that you can do there related to chords. So say that you're in that same G progression and you wind up going to a 4 chord. Another popular bend that people will do is they'll just take those 3 string, you know, 2 or 3 strings there. Because you're already in C, right? If you listen to that. You can grab multiple strings as you're bending it, right? Give it more of a raunchy, chordy type of sound going on. If I just went, that's cool. Or if I go, minor. Cool stuff. All right. You know, there's also, getting back into that relative major to the G minor, it's B flat. Okay, what you always hear. Another sort of pedal steel, double stop type bend that you can do is you can take those intervals, you can bend them. So if I go from a half step down, you can do just one bend in there if you want. You know, bend up. That's a Danny Gatton lick right there. Okay. If we're in B flat. All right, here's a Danny Gatton lick. So you basically, you're in this G major and you can take these intervals here. Bend those notes. Right? Sort of the same as doing it up here. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot of weird licks, okay? Those multi-string bends can be a real chore to work on, and they can play heck on your hands. Don't get frustrated. Take your time, learn each one, control the bend. That's a big part of it. Control your bends. Make a conscious effort to think about where the bend's going, where you want it to go. There are other bending techniques that we're not going to discuss in this video. We'll move on to some of them in a future video. This is definitely some advanced bending techniques. They're not easy, guys. They take years of practice. They take hard work. you know, practice them. They're great licks. They can add a lot of flair into country and blues music, but also a wide variety of other things too. If you play folkish kind of stuff, you want to add some kind of pedal steel sounding things into your sound. That's a great way to nail it. And those licks are very convincing and they sound great, especially through a nice clean Fender amp, and you're getting just some beautiful cleans going on. Those nice sparkly tones coming out sound really nice, especially in a big room. It really blooms and fills the room up in a nice way. And especially if you're playing three-piece and you have a limited amount of sound, you know, you have to everybody has to fill in specific parts in the music. A lot of those chordal bends and those big crazy bends that add a lot of other kind of harmony in a way, or let's just say, yeah, I guess harmony would be the word. They add kind of a harmony in there. It can help fill in a sound, especially when there's no chords playing in the background and you're the only guitar player, and you've got to be able to kind of fill in some of the space and sort of make good on that implied sonic landscape that's being created by the other two members of the band. That's a great way to do that. So hopefully this video helps some of you. Let us know if you like it. We're not going to discuss any more in this video. I think that's enough to bite off right now. You know, play the video back, check it out, see what you think. Guys, they're not easy bends. They're difficult. Don't get frustrated. Stay at it. You'll get it. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We post every Monday and Friday here on Guitarsenal. Let me know if you like these type of videos. We can do more of them. We really appreciate the support. You guys have yourselves a great day. We'll see you next time. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the description box, or I'm sorry, the comment section down below. I'll do my best to try to get to your questions in a timely manner as best I can. Thank you guys very much. We'll see you next time. This has been advanced bending. I guess this is our second bending video. If you want to see the first one, check out the description box below. You'll see a link to our first initial bending video if you guys want to learn some other bending techniques that are maybe a little bit easier than these. Thank you very much. You guys have yourselves a great day, and get out there and bend some strings. Don't be scared. It's not rocket science. Well, it's science, but it's not rocket science. It's fun.